Live from Liverpool, we need to talk about ghosts with Kevin Eustace.
Yes, it's Sunday. It's time for a Sunday sermon. And similar to last week, this is a pre-record. So there won't be any Patreon shouts out this week, just to let you know. So if you're waiting for your name to be sung, it will be in next week's episode. And the reason this is a pre-record is I have yet again... I'm having to travel to London on this weekend. It's for very good reasons. So, as our patrons found out midweek, I'm now letting you all know, I will be going to London on Sunday to do some filming. Yes, I will be filming for Cursed Films Season 2 on Sunday in the big smoke known as London. Yes. Now, this kind of... well, it doesn't tie in with the call today, but it kind of does. So I'm doing a piece on Rosemary's Baby and the curses surrounding that for Cursed Films. And I've got to get myself down to London, stay over, and then get the first train back and all this carry on. It's a bit of a schedule and nightmare, hence me doing a pre-record. But the call you're going to listen to today, because it's an interview today with Alex, a wonderful guy. We have an amazing chat, and it's terrifying, I promise you with that. That day, I was doing a lot of research for this upcoming filming thing about Rosemary's Baby, and obviously it's all about the devil and stuff like that. So I was already in the mind space of a very dark sort of occulty, demonic sort of place. And then Alex comes on with the call you're going to hear, and it just literally sent me into this like proper freaked out mode. Not during the call. What didn't help, as you will hear, is towards the end of the call, there's a bit of paranormal activity in the flat. Now, thankfully, this was witnessed by Alex on Zoom. And he's looking at me. It was about 11 o'clock in the night here in the UK. He was in Vegas. So, yeah, I mean, you'll hear all this on the call. But basically, he could see me. He could see both my hands. Something happens behind me. Yeah. And it wasn't good. It's not good to see that when you're in a mindset of already demons, devils. Oh, it's dead weird. Anyway, so that's very exciting. So that's what I'm doing this weekend. So yes, if you're a new Patreon, your name will be sung next weekend. And if you're not a Patreon, the question is, why aren't you? Not only will you be supporting the show, but you get 2 extra shows each and every week. One we release on a Wednesday, which is me just having a ramble for those who like that sort of thing. And the other on a Sunday, which is today, you get a paranormal one, which is recorded properly with this microphone and all the proper setup. And this week we're going to be talking about jinn. Yes, not the spirit. Well, still spirits, but not like the Mother's Ruin kind from London, where you go, "Ew, governor, give some gin to my mother." The jinn, as in the spirit from the Middle East, yes. Is it Islamic? I don't know. Possibly. Well, we'll find out, won't we? We'll find out together on Patreon. So if you want to become a patron, and of course you get your name sung out, head over to patreon.com/we need to talk about ghosts. As I say, you support the show, and you'll ensure this show, the free feed, keeps on going. And that can only be a good thing, can't it? Can't it? I don't know. Can it? Yes. Anywho. So yes, as it's a pre-record, we're just going to get right into the interview with Alex. It's fantastic. It's terrifying. It's Alex. Sorry, Alex, that was a bit of a big build-up. You're not terrifying. Your stories are terrifying. This is Alex. Okay, so it is my absolute pleasure to introduce all of our wonderful listeners to the wonderful Alex. Now, Alex is actually currently in Las Vegas on a holiday, and he's gone back to the hotel to talk about ghosts. That's my type of person. How are you doing, Alex?
I'm good. It's really hot out here. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, thank you. It's cooler here, as I'm sure you can imagine. So you were saying you've managed to get away because you're just celebrating the end of COVID, and your sister's just graduated. That right?
Yes, sir. Perfect.
Excellent. And have you had any wins on the casino table?
Yeah, actually a little bit. We won, I think, $2 off of one off of 25 cents.
Amazing. That's a hell of a return, really. What's that times 8, is it? Yeah, 8 times
I
coming
think so,
back?
yeah.
Very good. But obviously, we're not here to talk about your wonderful holiday or anything to do with gambling, really. We're here to talk about ghosts. So, Alex, you reached out and said you'd like to come on the show for you have some paranormal tales that you'd like to share.
Right. So, my story, I guess, goes back, I'd say about 1950. I think all this really starts on my mother's side on to my grandfather. So I've kind of noticed that my uh, my side of the family doesn't really like talking about anything ghost related.
Yeah.
All this that I've learned has come from my grandmother, who's been very reluctant to, talk about it. She doesn't. She has that old mentality of don't talk about it, don't think about it, it'll just go away.
Yeah.
And I just want to shed a little light on it, see what everybody's if it lines up with anybody.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yep. So I guess let's start with my grandfather. So what I've been told is that one night him and his brothers went to an abandoned, I think it was elementary school,
Yeah.
and mind you, a lot of people did this back then. They would go and just drink. So they would go drink all night, wouldn't come home until about 5 in the morning or when the sun came up.
Yeah.
So, so what I've been told is that he and his brothers were drinking and then decided to leave because they finished the bottles. And as he's walking home, a man on a horse comes up next to him. And I'm sure you've seen mariachis, the mariachi suits that everybody
Yeah.
wears.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, am I
So,
right? I mean, I may be getting this completely wrong. Is it similar to like a sort of Three Amigos outfit? I mean, I might be
yes.
dating myself there, but
Yes, basically just like that.
okay.
So along the pants, there's these little bells,
Mm.
usually. And he said he heard that first. So he was already concerned that he was being followed. Eventually, he pulls up next to him and he offers him a cigar. And he's like, no. He's like, he's already messed up, but he's like, no, I don't want a cigar.
Yeah.
He keeps walking with him alongside. He goes, I'll give you, I think it was 200 pesos, which is a lot of money back then and a lot of money now.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I'm not doing that. And he gets home, he turns around, the guy's completely gone. There's no horse tracks, nothing. The grass where he was walking by, undisturbed. I did research. Apparently, it's the devil incarnate following him. Story goes that if you accept anything from him, he snatches you away and takes you down to hell.
What on earth? And whereabout was that, mate? Sorry.
It's in, I think, Puebla, Mexico, about 30 miles out of Mexico City.
Wow.
It's in a rural city.
There was, you know what? Honest to God, Alex, it reminds me, there was a story somebody sent me in a good while back, and it stuck with me forever. It's a very similar story to what you've just said there about your grandfather, about a man on a horse turning up and knocking on a door, and the wife of this person, it was in South America again, well, that ways away anyway, and it turned out to be the devil. So
I've heard that story as well.
yeah,
I think that one it comes in the same. I think it's called in legend they call it El Mariachi Negro, which is the black mariachi.
wow. I mean, it is absolutely terrifying, and I know for a fact because it's nighttime over here in the UK, so I've currently just got the lamps on in the flat, and Becca's asleep downstairs. And although that shouldn't strike up, it doesn't sound, maybe because I've associated it with the Three Amigos, but you'd always see as well. Is there any sort of like link between, because you often see on the Day of the Dead, you'll see the float of a mariachi person, like a skeletal mariachi person as well. Is there a link between that and this individual?
Yeah. So typically, in the Day of the Dead, they wear that because that's what ranchers would usually wear, or people that hurdle cattle and stuff. That's where vaqueros come from, cowboys. That's usually what their attire used to be. So he did say that when he tried to look at his face, it was just blacked out, like you couldn't see, and the moon was out. It was a full moon.
Yeah,
you couldn't see his face at all.
That's terrifying. And
yep.
And so obviously it's strange. Well, it's not strange. It makes perfect sense that if you're having a meeting with the devil himself, you don't want to talk about that. So you found out that story through your grandmother, was it?
Yes. So he passed. He left us in 2018, and she told me this about a year later, so 2019. But she did say that over the years, because he died here in the U.S. in Texas with us, and she said that everywhere he would go, he would see him far away, without the horse, but he would see him standing far away. She said that I think 2 months before he passed, he was at the we had a driveway where we used to live, and they live there now.
Yeah.
He would stand at the front of the driveway, and eventually he would get closer and closer as the days got closer to his passing.
Oh my! And could your grandmother see him as well?
She didn't want to answer that, so
Yeah.
I would assume yes. But then, she was. It took a lot of prodding to get her to answer these questions.
Yeah, I bet you it did, mate. So it's kind of like I know that in legend it's the devil, but it sounds more like a psychopomp there, doesn't it? Like a Grim Reaper sort of character. If he's getting closer as your grandfather's passing, grew close too.
It seems like that, but she said that he met him when he was in his mid to early 30s, and he
Wow.
passed in his 80s. So he's been followed by that guy since
Wow. I've just
50
got a
years now.
shiver. Just got a shiver thinking about
Yeah.
imagine being followed by the devil for that amount of time. Oh
Yeah,
my
because
God.
apparently when he turned around, this is my grandfather and 100%. He started cursing at him. He's like,
Yeah.
"You piece of crap, get out of here! If I see you again, you're gonna get a good ass whooping, this, that, and the other." And that was him all the way. He didn't take nothing from nobody, and the fact that he stood up to that guy or whatever it was,
Yeah.
it reflects him a lot.
I mean, tell you what though, it proves it verifies the story for me as well. Because if your granddad was like that in terms of the fact, he'd be like, "No, I'm going to knock you out if something goes on," and
Mhm.
then he comes back and says, "I'll give you 200 pesos." Do you know what I mean? Most people, if somebody says, "I'm going to punch you in the face," you go, don't you? You don't turn around
Yeah.
and come back with a higher offer.
hmm And I think that kind of led into my next story.
Mm.
My uncle, his son, this is from my mother's side. She told us when we were younger, but she never really explained what happened.
Mm.
And I asked her again before I left. She said that one night, or I think it was about the afternoon, about 5 before the sun went down. We're devout Catholics. My family has always been devout Catholics. So
Yeah.
they went around the house, I think doing the Stations of the Cross.
Right. Yeah.
Do Stations of the Cross, Hail Marys, Our Fathers. And she said, I think around the third, I think it was the third petition, he just stops. Like they're walking together, hand in hand, linked together, and he just stops. They can't move him. They can't do anything. So they just start praying louder. All of a sudden, he just says, "Stop." He says, "Stop," and he just starts saying the most vitriol things at them. He's just calling them, "You're disgusting. You're pieces of this, that, and the other." And mind you, he's three years old, saying words that
Wow.
that would put shame to a sailor.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And she said that his voice at that age was a little high pitched, but whenever he started speaking and throwing these insults at them,
Mm.
it dropped to like a low, deep baritone, like an opera low singer,
Wow.
like deep, and it shook the house.
A
They could
3-year-old.
see, yes, they could see rocks coming down from the tin roof.
Oh my God. And you know what? Just unless you know off the top of your head, do you know what the third Station of the Cross is? I'm a Catholic, but I'm a very, very lapsed one.
I don't remember.
I'll have a quick Google just to see if it's relative to that. Third Station of the Cross. Let's see. The third Station of the Cross is he falls for the first time.
Oh,
I've just got a shiver when I've said that. I have literally just gone cold.
I have goosebumps.
Same here, mate. Same here. Now,
Wow.
for those non-Catholics amongst our listeners, Station of the Cross is, I mean, some people have them in the house. I only know them from church, but they were positioned around the church normally. Is it 1 through 12? I'm not 100. I should know that, but and it basically, yeah. So it basically shows Christ's journey to the crucifixion. But obviously, what Alex is saying is that a 3-year-old boy at the third Station of the Cross, where Christ falls for the first time, is starting to growl and be offensive and say words that are beyond his comprehension.
Yes, and it terrified her. I think to this day, she's still shook about it.
Yeah.
They said that they just started praying, like they encircled him, like they to where he wasn't shaking anymore.
Hmm.
So they all hugged him, and then they just kept saying, I think, just kept praying over him, and then eventually he, I think, I guess, passed out because
Yeah.
he stopped, and from then on, that hasn't happened.
Wow. Wow. So it's a strange. Well, it's not a strange thing again, but it's an interesting thing that your grandfather has an encounter with what we can surmise is a legendary version of the devil. His son is now also having a kind of a reaction to a religious influence as well. Is that a
Mhm.
common theme? Do you think within your family history, or
It seems like yes, because again, uh, during New Year's they have a tradition. My family has a tradition of praying rosaries.
yeah,
And apparently, I think in 2013, 14, they were just doing a rosary outside. Because New Year's had just happened, so they were outside. They just praying a rosary for the year to go good for them. And then all of a sudden, they hear this just loud scream, laugh like loud scream, and then high pitched cackle coming from the woods that's right next to our house.
what?
And then a fog rolls in.
Oh my God! And what do we any idea what that's meant to be or what that's meant to signify?
They have no idea. I think they ended up finishing the rosary quicker, and everybody left.
I love the commitment that they still finish the rosary though. That's Catholics for you. Well done.
Yep.
So seriously though, that woods is it renowned to be haunted? Is there anything that's taken place there that might sort of we can speculate it might be caused by?
I I'm not sure. I've done research on where our house was. Apparently, the house was built in like the 1960s. There's only
Hmm.
been one family before ours. They never said they lost anyone there. Um, I couldn't find anything about these woods. My theory is that our family is not cursed but marked in some way,
Yeah,
because you know, and this isn't hyperbole. This isn't me embellishing anything.
yeah.
Almost everyone in my extended family on my mother's side have paranormal experiences.
Wow. And
Yes, and it's not just they're not just here in Texas. They're from New York, Tennessee, and I could probably list 2 3 hours of everyone's story.
and is that's fantastic. I mean, well, it's not fantastic for them, obviously, but I mean, is there any sort of can you see any sort of causal effect behind that? Like, is there a seventh son of a seventh son or similar or anything that you could pinpoint and say it probably ties back to great uncle whoever?
Not really. I don't see. I've done the research, but I don't see any correlation to
Yeah.
what could be. But like I said, my guess was the meeting my grandfather had that one night.
Well, that will do it. I mean, if you're meeting the devil himself and declining his advances,
Yeah,
um,
and the way he did it too, because I'm holding back. I'm keeping a little PG, but he
yeah.
said some very, not nice things to the devil himself.
Oh, that's a very good point. Yeah, so I didn't even think about that. So I mean, it seems a strange thing to say, but if you've offended the devil, um, that's not the sort of, well, I'm laughing, but he's not the person you want to offend, really, is he? I suppose, out of literally everyone in the world.
Hmm.
It's interesting though because I've noticed this when I'm talking about dark stuff, such as black magic, demons, devils, and stuff. It seems to all congregate on one day. And today I've been doing quite a bit of research into the film Rosemary's Baby for another project that I'm doing on the weekend. And literally before I took this call, the sentence I've just written down is a quote from Sharon Tate. And she says, she's quoted as saying that everyone thinks the devil is an ugly person, but he's actually quite handsome once you see him. And it's kind of always been held up there as in like, why would she even say that sort of thing? And it's strange that I've literally just finished that, and now we're talking about. He feels close. I'll be honest, as I'm talking, he feels close. Not a nice
Yeah.
figure. So tell us some more then, Alex. If you've got any more paranormal tidbits that we can go over.
Yeah, we can, I guess, start moving into my immediate family. I
Hmm.
have myself, obviously. My two parents are still with us. My mother, my father, um, my younger sister, who's about 21, and my youngest brother, who's 14. Um, I can start off with my sister because she's right here with us
Yeah.
on the bed. She can verify anything I say about her. Um, we where my grandparents live is where we used to live, where my grandfather saw the figure in the driveway.
Right.
We used to live there. Um, then I think around 2009, right before the stock market crash in the U.S., we moved to a bigger house. It's brand new. We saw the land, without a house or anything.
Yeah.
We get the house built, and I think a year later or 2 years later, we switched rooms because I had the bigger room upstairs
Hmm.
and she had a smaller one. So obviously the girl gets the bigger room, so we switched.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think eventually later she says she starts seeing. Um, she said at first it started off with the closet door just opening,
Mm.
right? It just opened. She's like, that's weird. And then it became to where anytime that she would argue with my mother or my father, it would just violently open, like somebody slammed it open.
Wow.
She said one day she got in an argument with my mother, and she had a shelf where all her jewelry was. She said she got an argument with her. As she opens the door, she hears a clang, and all her jewelry is in a circle, a perfect circle, and the main jewelry box is in the middle. And
Wow.
then the door in the closet slams shut.
Oh my God. That's
Yes.
fascinating. It's so, it's because that's obviously poltergeist activity there. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, how old was your sister at that time, if you don't mind me asking?
Let me ask her, Caro, how old were you during that time? She said around 11 or 12.
Wow. So she's going through
Yeah.
a transformative age there as well, which is often tied in with poltergeists, as we know. But
Yeah.
what's really interesting about that, though, Alex, as well, is um, there's two personal friends of mine that one who's reported going into a poltergeist active bedroom, and their jewelry boxes have been stacked in height order. So again, there's like a symmetry to it. And the other person, again, to do with poltergeist, they were kind of the jewelry in this situation. They had their bed pulled out and playing cards scattered around in a circle around the bed. Um,
Oh, wow.
so there's this thing about symmetry, which seems to be something to do with the poltergeist phenomena, whether it be something that your sister was subconsciously projecting out. It's interesting you say that it kind of got heightened when she would argue with your parents,
Mhm.
like a reaction. But I mean, by all means, obviously continue with your story of your family.
Yeah. So she said after a while that happened with the circle, everything kind of calmed down, and then it came ramping uh, a lot harder because she said she would eventually start seeing, the door opening again,
Yeah.
and then a black shadow would move out and stand right in front of her bed and
Wow.
just stand there. And then she would walk in sometimes and see him standing in the corner and then shoot up into the corner and disappear.
Into the corner.
And yes, and then one time I had an ex-girlfriend. She'd
Yeah.
stayed at my house with me and us. And I went downstairs to get something. This was like 8 at night.
Hmm.
So I go downstairs and I hear her just scream, like, "Oh my God, what was that? Are you up here?" And I was like, and I run upstairs. I'm like, "What happened?" She's like, "I thought you were in our living room because from my room you can see into the living room."
Yeah.
I was like, "No, I was downstairs getting some water." She's like, "I saw someone in like full black attire standing um,
Wow.
in the hallway to the living room." And you know,
That's petrifying.
I
And
don't.
again,
Yeah.
there's a thing with corners of rooms. An Irish girl who's a very good friend of mine. Her mother is into angels and demons and spirituality and all this, and she is adamant that in a house that's haunted, if it's a negative spirit, it will hide in the top corners of rooms. That's where it will
Mhm.
be. Um, And she says if there's an evil spirit, that's where it's going to hide, in the corner of a room. So it's so interesting that like it was seen to be flying off into the corner of the room.
Yeah, it for her it was pretty scary. I remember trying to console her times,
Yeah,
not think about it so that it wouldn't affect you, but it has scared her a good amount.
of course, yeah. So that's your sister's paranormal story. So anyone
Yeah.
else within your immediate family have any paranormal encounters?
Uh, yes. So my youngest brother, thankfully, he's safe and everything. He's healthy.
Hmm.
But 2 days after my grandfather died in 2018, he was found to have, I think the doctor said, the rarest brain tumor
Oh my God.
um, they've ever found. They said no one has ever had this type. So we went through all this stuff, um, and I think during the middle of it, I overheard him, and I had to clarify with him what he said. He said that I think 2 months prior to being diagnosed, so this was probably I think 3 months, September 2017.
Yeah.
He said that when he was sleeping upstairs in his room, um, he hardly ever slept in his room prior because he was a little kid and he didn't like sleeping by himself, so he would sleep with our parents.
Yeah.
Um, so the one time he went to go sleep up there, he was, I think, around 2 in the morning.
Mm.
He felt as if his closet, which was a double door, kind of creaked open, and that something crawled out like a snake,
What?
and then just touched the top of his, like the crown of his head, and just stayed there for a little bit, and then just retreated back in.
And this
He
was
said it
2 months
freaked him out
before they discovered the
before
brain
he was
tumor.
diagnosed.
Oh
Yes,
my God.
because for years, the pediatrics said, nah, he's fine. He passes our health tests and everything. But it just hit him all of a sudden, and we still don't know why it developed so quickly like that.
I'm a bit lost for words because I can visualize that so well. I was gonna wait until you finished, obviously, and then say, oh, the way you described that as crawling out of the cupboard. But when you said it was like a snake and then it sat on the crown of his head, honestly, it's so, what it reminds me of? It's so, everyone can visualize that now because you described it so well. And the fact you say, it crawled out, it sat on his crown, and then it crawled back in. It's not even scary. It's bone chilling, is what it is.
Yeah.
It's not like a shadow man jumping out of the cupboard. It's something darker and demonic. And when you say like it feels like the family's marked, that for me is the biggest indicative story of that. That's just absolutely petrifying. It's kind of cold, and I'm not saying just because it's a snake, but it's kind of cold-blooded. It's like I always visualize proper demons, real, actual demons. I know we use the word a lot to describe just shadow people and all this, but I mean, I always think actual demons and devils would have this air of methodicalness about them. They wouldn't try and scare you. They'd just go about the day to wreak havoc, but in a very calm manner. And that's what that sounds like. It's terrifying.
Yeah, it that was probably the lowest point in our lives. I remember he was in treatment for a couple months in our downtown Houston. And he came home because the doctor said, after doing chemo, he can stay home for a month and then come back to do it closer to your house.
Yeah.
So he gets home. It was the very first day he gets home, and a friend of our family friend comes over, and they all we all start eating with them. And my sister goes and sits with him, and mind you, he hasn't been alone since he's been diagnosed. The moment she walks out to get some water, comes back in, he's having a full-blown seizure.
What? How awful.
Yes. So he has a seizure. The ambulance comes, takes him home, or takes him to the hospital. Sorry.
Yeah.
from our house, and my sister stays with our family friends, and they're sitting at our dining table, which is right next to the master bedroom, which is where he was laying.
Mm.
And our dog uh, runs into the bedroom, to sleep, or I guess to stay where he was staying at,
Mm.
on his little, like, I guess a day bed. It was a day bed. And then all of a sudden, my family friend says she saw him jump up and something just pushes him like full force off the bed, and he like yells.
Oh my Christ.
Yeah. uh, it it freaked everybody out that was still there. Mind you, we're in the hospital, we didn't know what happened.
Yeah.
I get back, they tell me, and I didn't know what to do. It totally, like on top of what happened, it also mortified me
Yeah.
that
Definitely.
something is still following him or
Oh
following
my
us.
God. So, I mean, obviously, you did mention, at least, so your brother's okay now in terms of.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, thank God for that. That's good.
Yes.
So as we start to, I can't. You know what, Alex? I did not expect this call to make me feel as I feel now, which is absolutely on edge. Really.
Yeah.
He says laughing, but yeah, on edge. So just before, as we wrap up the call now, mate, is there any final story that you want to get across before we say our goodbyes?
From, I guess we can talk about my dad. My dad doesn't really like to talk about paranormal stuff, just like most of our family does. But one day, I work with him ever since I graduated high school. So we've been pretty close, talking to each other about these things. Yeah. And I asked him, I was like, has anything weird happened to you? And this can be really brief. And he goes, yeah, when I first got here to the US, to Houston, I was staying in this rundown weird apartment, and I went to go buy myself a TV. This was in the, I think, early 80s. So, those big fat,
like a box TV. Yeah.
Yeah, like the big bulky ones. So he bought it used, I think. And the guy was like, I really don't want it, so I'll give it to you for about $10. Take it. Go, get out of here. And my dad was like, that's kind of weird. Yeah. Whatever. $10 TV, nice. So he says he hooks it up, starts watching I think football or something.
Yeah.
And he starts falling asleep. And then all of a sudden he feels like somebody pushes his head into the mattress and he can't breathe. He's like like that. And then he feels like he hears someone in his ear go, you're not waking up from this one. You're not getting out of here.
Oh my God. And
at that, like a couple of seconds later, his roommate comes in and he's like, hey, what's wrong with you? And he goes, I can breathe again. And then, he goes on with his night. Like nothing happened.
And so I'm just blown away there. So it's kind of like a cursed TV set, we think, that he's bought.
It seems like it, yeah. He said the next day he threw that TV out. He's like, I don't want it, and just threw it in the trash.
I don't blame him. I don't blame him one bit.
Oh, and he said that when he was younger, he would see gnomes in his house.
Oh, really?
Yes, like
little people.
Like garden gnomes. Yes. Yeah. Like he said, they had the little like cone hat and everything.
Yeah, yeah.
But he said that they would pick up little rocks and just chunk it at people, just to be, I guess, like fairies in Ireland.
Exactly. Yeah.
So they would chunk little rocks at them. And he said that one night he saw a golden pit in like further away from where he was. And legend says that if you go into that pit or grab money from that pit, you're going to hell.
Oh my God.
It's the gnomes' money.
Well, I know this every time somebody says something, I go, oh, I've got a story about that. But that's what you do when you do host one of these shows. But in fact, this is on record somewhere. I think I discussed it when it was on Brennan's show on the Ghost Story guys. We used to have a tree at the bottom of my dad's garden, right? And when I used to lie in bed, sometimes I would visualize this tree. And always when I visualized this tree, there would be two gnomes with pickaxes, right, at the foot of this tree, mining a pot of gold. And it was, honestly, I'm like, and they weren't like, it wasn't, I was never as a child into gnomes or anything like that. There was no reason why it should be a thought. Now you've got me thinking there's a portal to hell in my dad's back garden. But it's an interesting sort of like cultural thing, that, because I know the stories of gnomes. And I'm saying gnomes, I don't necessarily mean gnomes. I mean, like what I'm sure you mean, like spirit folk, tiny little people. That they do come out and throw stones and cause mischief, if you're on their land or if you're doing certain stuff. There's a guy in Ireland who's actually been appointed by the council to look after fairy forts, little hills, and to make sure that they're not like tarmacked over and stuff.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, it's a weird job to have to put on your CV, I suppose. But but yeah. So thank you, Alex. I really do want to say that it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on today. And if you've got anything else that you want to come on and talk about, or if you've got more stories like that, sorry, my TV's just come on behind me.
Yeah, I noticed that. Okay, look, his TV just turned on. Oh my God.
There's no one here.
It's like the old saying says, "Speak of the devil and he'll appear."
Oh, nice one, Alex. I need that. Yeah.
Oh man.
Honest to God, just as we're talking about a haunted TV, I'm not having that. I'm hoping it's on a timer. Why can you set a timer for it to come on?
To come on? I don't think so.
I wouldn't think so.
You can't set a timer to turn it on. No, you can turn it off with a timer.
Well, the remote control's on the bed. I'm made up that you're on the camera.
I noticed that. I was like, is he gonna notice that it turned on, or was somebody in the room with you?
No, there's the cat, but I'm just checking now to see if she's walking around with a remote control in her mouth, which she's not actually. Well, that's freaked me out, and you didn't really need to end it with us saying, "Talk of the devil and he will appear." Not after the day I've had, but those stories, Alex, sincerely, mate, honestly, thank you so much for coming on. I've never, as I said earlier, it's very rare that I've had this feeling following a call with someone. And what's very strange? I've just remembered now, in the haze of this blue light of the bastard TV behind me, this TV's come on once before on a call.
Oh.
And I need to find out what that call was about, because you know what? If I go back and listen, I'm shaking now, because I'm thinking, if I go back and listen and we're talking about the devil on that call, I think I might have to stop doing live calls. But yeah, anyway. So Alex, I'll let you get back to your family holiday, mate. All
right.
You enjoy the rest of your vacation. I'm sure you've all deserved it. And congratulations on your sister for graduating too. And yeah, I'll let you go. Please come back on again, mate, if you get any more stories or if you've got anything else to share.
Oh, I got a container full of stories. If you would have me on here anytime,
I would have
really glad to do it.
I will get you back on next month.
Right.
How about that?
Yeah, because like I said, I didn't talk about my mom, and that's a whole other speak that talk about her.
Okay. Well, with me and you drop me an email when you get back from your vacation, mate, and me and you, we'll get you on in July. So we'll leave it a couple of weeks, and then we'll get you back on to talk about your mother. And I'll try and do it without this telly in the background so that I can't freak out. All right. Thank you very much, Alex. It's been an absolute pleasure, my friend.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Speak to you soon, mate.
All right.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
So there we go. That was Alex's call. Seriously, that television going on at the end freaked me out. He's literally talking about a haunted TV, and my TV just turns on. Can it happen if a battery's low in a remote? Possibly. I'm not saying it was the devil, because I'm sure the devil has got more maniacal things to do than just go, I'm going to turn on your TV. It probably has a more terrifying laugh than that too. Oh, sorry. Just got things playing in my headphones there. Anywho, that brings us to the end of today's episode. I'm sure that you enjoyed it, because Alex was a wonderful human being. And don't forget, if you've got a story that you want to share, send it in to contact@talkaboutghosts.com and I will read it out. Or if you want to come on the show, send the same email address an email. And and if you want more content, and who doesn't, head over to patreon.com/we need to talk about ghosts. Okay then, guys, I think that's enough for today. Take care of yourselves and each other. Copyright Jeremy Springer mid-90s style. Tatty bye.